Welcome back to Lpbw Update, where we dig deeper than the cameras ever dare to go. Today, we are cracking open what might be the single most explosive financial scandal in the history of Roloff Farms. We are talking about a betrayal so calculated, so devastating, and so legally complex that it threatens to erase the Roloff legacy forever. Sources are buzzing about a shocking development regarding the sale of the north side of the farm. But this isn't about negotiations stalling or family feuds. This is about a trap that was set years ago. We are receiving reports that a massive $500,000 blockade has been placed on the property, effectively freezing any transfer of land to the kids. It's called a mechanic's lien, but the person who filed it isn't a contractor or a builder. It's Caryn Chandler. The theory we are investigating today is the existence of a phantom loan, a $500,000 debt Caryn claims Matt owes her for unpaid management services. Is Caryn holding the farm hostage? And more importantly, did this money ever actually exist? Or is this the ultimate power play to cash out before the ship sinks? Amy Roloff is reportedly on the warpath, and what she is uncovering could change everything. Buckle up, because we are diving into the financial abyss. To understand the gravity of this situation, we have to look at the timeline of the last few months through the lens of these new, explosive insider theories. Everyone knows the narrative that has been pushed on television, that Zach and Jeremy couldn't come to an agreement with Matt, that the price was too high, and that the negotiations simply fell apart due to stubbornness. But new information suggests that the deal was actually much closer than anyone realized. According to speculation circulating among those close to the production, there was a moment, a brief window, where a deal with one of the twins was not only possible, but imminent. The banks were involved, the preliminary paperwork was being drawn up, and the dream of keeping the farm in the family was about to be realized. But in real estate, there is a step called the title search. This is where the bank and the lawyers scour the public records to make sure the land is free and clear of any debts, judgments, or claims. Usually, this is a formality. But in this case, the title search allegedly came back with a massive red flag, a cloud on the title that stopped the bank dead in its tracks. This wasn't a standard mortgage or a line of credit from a financial institution. This was a private lien, specifically a mechanic's lien or a claim of interest based on unpaid debts for services rendered. The amount of the paperwork? A staggering $500,000. And the creditor listed on the document? Caryn Chandler. This revelation changes the entire texture of the show's recent history. If this lien exists, it means that legally, Matt Roloff cannot sell a single acre of that land without first satisfying the debt owed to Caryn. She literally holds the deed hostage. The question that immediately arises is, how? How does a farm manager accrue $500,000 in unpaid services? This is where the theory of the phantom loan begins to take shape. The narrative being spun by Caryn's camp, according to these theories, is one of deferred compensation. The story goes that during the lean years of the farm, specifically during the chaotic transition periods and the height of the pumpkin season expansions, Caryn allegedly loaned the business money or agreed to defer her salary and bonuses to keep cash flow positive. She is claiming, in essence, that she acted as the farm's private bank. She is framing this $500,000 figure not as a cash grab, but as a reimbursement for years of sacrifice. She is positioning herself as the savior of the farm, the one who kept the lights on when the margins were razor thin. And now that the land is being sold for millions, she simply wants her investment back. It is a compelling story, one that paints her as a victim of Matt's financial mismanagement. But there is a darkness to this timing that we cannot ignore. If this debt was legitimate, why was it never disclosed to the kids during the initial negotiations? When Zach sat down at the negotiation table, he was operating under the assumption that the farm's valuation was based on market rates and standard assets. If there was a $500,000 private debt attached to the land, that changes the equity calculation entirely. By keeping this lien silent until the 11th hour, until the title search forced it into the light, Caryn effectively placed a landmine in the middle of the deal. This suggests that the goal wasn't just to get paid, but to control the process. By attaching the debt to the land itself rather than just suing Matt personally, She ensures that no transaction can happen without her signature. She has inserted herself into the chain of title. She has made herself the gatekeeper of the Roloff legacy. Let's look at the power dynamic this creates. We have seen Matt Roloff bulldoze over his family members for years. He is a man who likes to be in control, who likes to call the shots. But if these reports are true, Matt is currently powerless. He is arguably being held financially hostage by the woman sleeping next to him. If he tries to sell the land to the kids at a discount, he can't, because he needs the full market value to pay off Caryn's lien and still clear the bank's mortgage. This explains his rigidity on the price. It might not be greed on Matt's part. It might be desperation. He literally cannot lower the price because Caryn demands her cut off the top. This theory reframes Matt from the villain to the fool, a man who allowed his employee, and later his partner, to entangle herself so deeply into the corporate structure of the farm that he can no longer move without her permission. The insider suggests that Caryn's attitude regarding this line is incredibly smug. She isn't hiding it anymore. The theory is that she views this as her retirement package. She put in the years, she dealt with the family drama, she managed the chaos, and now she is cashing out. She frames it as protecting her investment. But let's look at the numbers. $500,000 is an astronomical amount of money for unpaid management fees. Even at a generous salary, that represents years of unpaid work. Are we to believe that Caryn Chandler, a woman who is demonstrably sharp when it comes to business and finance, worked for free for years without a formal contract until now? Or is it more likely that this lien was filed retroactively? This brings us to the most disturbing part of the theory, the validity of the debt. A mechanic's lien is a powerful tool, but it requires proof. You have to prove that you provided value to the property that wasn't paid for. If Caryn is claiming she loaned the farm money, there must be a paper trail. There must be bank transfers, deposit slips, promissory notes. But sources suggest that the documentation is surprisingly vague. It's based on internal ledgers, on management fees that were accrued but never distributed. It smells like creative accounting. And this is where the blockade becomes a weapon. Even if the debt is questionable, fighting a lien takes time and money. If the kids wanted to challenge Caryn's claim, they would have to take her to court. They would have to freeze the sale, hire forensic accountants, and spend years in litigation. Caryn knows this. She knows that the Roloffs want a clean break, not a legal war. So she effectively dares them to challenge her, knowing that they will likely just pay her off to make her go away. The atmosphere at the farm, according to these theories, is toxic. Matt is walking on eggshells. He is trapped between his desire to reconcile with his family, or at least appear to, and the financial iron grip of his partner. Every time he suggests a concession to the kids, Caryn reportedly pulls out the ledger. She reminds him of what is owed. She leverages her position not just as a creditor, but as the person who knows where all the financial bodies are buried. Remember, Caryn managed the farm's operations for years. She knows the taxes, she knows the write-offs, she knows every loophole Matt ever exploited. This lien acts as a silencer. Matt cannot argue with her, because if he does, she has the power to blow the lid off the entire financial history of Roloff Farms. And let's talk about the kids. Zach and Jeremy are reportedly furious, but also confused. They knew Caryn was involved, but they didn't know she essentially owned a piece of the dirt. To find out that the reason the price was so high was partly to pay off their father's girlfriend is a slap in the face. It validates every suspicion they ever had about her motives. For years, the fan base has speculated that Caryn was a gold digger, that she was in it for the money. This lien, if real, is the smoking gun. It is the definitive proof that she sees the farm not as a family home, but as a bank account to be liquidated. The blockage she has created makes a sale to the family almost impossible. The kids can't afford to pay market value plus Caryn's tax. The bank won't lend against a property with a clouded title. The entire transaction is paralyzed. But there is one person who isn't paralyzed. One person who knows the history of that farm better than Caryn, and who isn't afraid to get her hands dirty. Amy Roloff. While she has sold her portion of the land, she still holds a deep emotional investment in the legacy, and she still has ties to the financial history of the business from the years she was married to Matt. Insider theories suggest that Amy has caught wind of this lien and she is livid, not just because it hurts the kids, but because something about the numbers feels wrong to her. Amy remembers the years Caryn claims to have been loaning money. Amy was there. She remembers the budgets. She remembers the cash flow. And according to her recollection, the farm was making money. There was no need for a $500,000 injection from the farm manager. Amy's involvement turns this from a real estate dispute into a detective story. She is reportedly baffled by the claim. Where did Caryn get $500,000 to lend the farm in 2012, is the question she is asking. Back then, Caryn was an employee. A well-paid one, perhaps, but enough to have $500,000 in liquid cash to float the business? It doesn't add up. Amy suspects that this isn't a loan at all. She suspects this is a fabrication, a rewriting of history designed to siphon equity away from the Matt and Amy era and deposit it directly into Caryn's pocket. Amy is looking at this blockade and seeing it for what it is, a heist. The tension is mounting. On one side, you have Caryn sitting on a legal document that gives her veto power over the farm's future, claiming she is a martyr who saved the business. On the other side, you have the family, blocked out, priced out, and deceived. And in the middle, a weak Matt Roloff, unable to tell the truth. But the blockade is only the beginning. As Amy begins to pull at the loose threads of this financial sweater, she is going to find something much darker than a simple unpaid debt. The investigation is about to start, and what is buried in those old ledgers is going to shock you. This isn't just about money anymore. It's about fraud. We are about to step into the world of forensic accounting, where we track every dollar, and the path leads to a shocking twist that no one saw coming. We are back, and the rabbit hole is about to get significantly deeper. If you thought the existence of a $500,000 lien was shocking, what Amy Roloff allegedly discovers next turns this from a financial dispute into a potential criminal conspiracy. As we established, the blockade is in place. The farm is frozen. But Amy Roloff isn't the type to sit back and let history be rewritten. According to our sources, Amy didn't just get angry, she got professional. The theory is that Amy quietly hired a forensic accountant, a specialist in tracing hidden assets and untangling complex business knots, to audit the specific years Caryn claims she loaned this money. We are talking about the era between 2011 and 2015, the peak chaotic years of the farm's expansion. Amy still has access to certain historical records from her time as a partial owner, and she knows the baseline revenue of that farm better than anyone. She knows that a $500,000 shortfall doesn't just happen, and a $500,000 injection doesn't just appear out of thin air.
The investigation begins with a simple premise. Follow the money. If Caryn Chandler loaned the farm $500,000, there has to be a deposit. There has to be a moment in time where money moved from Caryn's personal bank account into the Roloff Farms business account. It is basic accounting. You cannot have a debt without a principal. So, the forensic team starts digging through the old ledgers, the digital transfer records, and the bank statements from those specific years. They are looking for a wire transfer, a check, anything that matches the amount Caryn is claiming in her lien. They search for weeks. They cross-reference dates. And here is the bombshell that insiders are whispering about. They find absolutely nothing. Let that sink in. According to this investigative theory, there is zero record of $500,000 of external capital entering the farm's accounts from Caryn Chandler. No wire transfers, no personal checks. The money she claims to have loaned the company never actually crossed the threshold from her private accounts. This is the first major red flag. If she didn't send the money, how can she claim a debt? Most people would stop there and call it fraud. But the forensic accountant Amy allegedly hired kept digging because they noticed something else. While they couldn't find money coming in from Caryn, they noticed a strange pattern of money moving around within the farm's ecosystem. This brings us to the dark heart of the phantom loan theory. The investigators shifted their focus from deposits to revenue. They started looking at the cash flow during the pumpkin seasons of those specific years. Everyone knows the pumpkin patch is a cash-heavy operation. Tens of thousands of people, parking fees, wagon tours, food stands. A massive amount of liquid cash moves through that property in October. It is a nightmare to track if you aren't diligent. The forensic team allegedly found discrepancies between the ticket sales recorded at the gate and the actual deposits made into the primary farm bank account. There was a gap, a consistent, calculated percentage of revenue that seemed to evaporate before it hit the main ledger. Where did this money go? The investigation allegedly uncovered a secondary account, a management operating account that was established under the guise of handling petty cash and vendor payments. This account was reportedly under the direct control of the farm manager, Caryn. The theory posits that for years, a portion of the farm's gross revenue was being diverted into this side account. We are talking about $50,000 here, $100,000 there, siphoned off from the main revenue stream. Now, to the untrained eye, this might just look like sloppy bookkeeping, but the forensic accountant saw the pattern. The money wasn't being stolen in the traditional sense of someone running off to Mexico. It was being held. It was being accumulated. And here's the twist that makes this the most diabolical financial trap in reality TV history. The theory suggests that the loan Caryn is claiming isn't her money at all. It is the farm's money. The forensic analysis allegedly shows that after this diverted revenue sat in the secondary account for a few months, it would be transferred back into the main farm account to cover expenses during the off-season. But, and this is the key, when it was transferred back, it wasn't recorded as revenue. It was recorded in the books as a manager contribution or a short-term loan. Do you see the brilliance of the scheme? Caryn allegedly took the farm's own earnings, moved them to a pot she controlled, and then gave them back to the farm as a loan from herself. She was effectively laundering the farm's revenue into personal debt. She turned profit into a liability. Every time she saved the day by covering payroll in February with money from that side account, she was writing herself an IOU for money that belonged to the farm in the first place. Over 5 or 6 years, these loans added up. They accrued interest. They compounded, until eventually the total reached that staggering $500,000 figure. This reveals the mechanism of the lien. The paperwork Caryn filed isn't based on a check she wrote from her savings. It is based on these internal ledger entries. She has a paper trail that says she loaned the money, but the source of the funds was the business itself. It is a circular flow of cash, designed to strip equity from the owners and transfer it to the manager. If this theory holds water, it means Matt Roloff isn't just being extorted. He is being gaslit on a forensic level. He believes he owes her this money because he saw the loans hit the account during the tough months. He didn't realize, or he chose to ignore, that the source of that liquidity was his own pumpkin patch profits that had been skimmed off the top months earlier. The implications of this are catastrophic. This isn't just a civil dispute anymore. If Amy can prove that the source of the loaned funds was actually diverted business revenue, then the lien is fraudulent. But it's worse than that. It suggests a breach of fiduciary duty so severe it could result in criminal charges. It suggests that while Amy was raising kids and Matt was building castles, the financial foundation of their legacy was being hollowed out from the inside. The phantom loan isn't phantom because the money doesn't exist. It's phantom because the ownership of the money was faked. Amy is reportedly sitting on this evidence, looking at the spreadsheets that confirm the circular transfers. She sees the dates align perfectly. October revenue dip matches a January loan injection. It's a shell game. And suddenly, Matt's behavior makes sense. He might not even know the full extent of it. He might genuinely believe the farm was losing money, not realizing that the profit was simply being reclassified as debt to Caryn. This theory paints Matt not as the mastermind, but as the mark. He was the target of a long con designed to ensure that if the farm ever sold, the first $500,000 would go to the person running the books. The tension in the investigation room is palpable. Amy realizes she has the smoking gun. This evidence doesn't just dissolve the lien, it destroys Caryn's credibility entirely. It proves that the investment she claims to be protecting was stolen from the family legacy in real time. But having the evidence and using it are two different things. Amy knows that dropping this nuclear bomb will humiliate Matt, destroy the show's dynamic, and potentially send someone to prison. The twist isn't just money laundering. It's the realization that the entire financial struggle of the last decade might have been manufactured to create this debt. The farm wasn't failing, it was being drained. And now Amy has to decide. Does she simply use this to free the land for the kids, or does she go for total destruction? As we move toward the climax of this story, the stage is set for a confrontation that will make the divorce proceedings look like a picnic. Amy isn't going to the lawyers yet. She's going to the source. She wants to see the look on their faces when she lays the bank statements on the table. The phantom loan has been exposed, and the trap Caryn set for the family is about to snap shut on her own fingers. But Caryn isn't going to go down without a fight, and she has one last card to play. A document that Matt signed years ago that might validate the debt regardless of where the money came from. We are inches away from the final showdown. We have arrived at the end game. The forensic accountant has done the work, the paper trail has been uncovered, and the theory of the phantom loan has transformed from a suspicion into a weapon. Amy Roloff is now walking into the main house, not as an ex-wife, but as the executioner of Caryn's financial grip on the farm. Insider reports paint a picture of a confrontation so volatile that production cameras were allegedly ordered to stop rolling. This wasn't content for TLC. This was a legal intervention. According to the timeline we are piecing together, Amy requested an emergency meeting with Matt and Caryn under the pretense of discussing the kids' inheritance. But when she walked in, she wasn't holding a peace offering. She was holding a binder full of bank statements, transfer logs, and a drafted letter to the IRS. The atmosphere in that room must have been suffocating. Caryn, sitting there with the confidence of someone who holds a $500,000 lien, likely expected Amy to beg. She likely expected a negotiation where she would walk away with a settlement check. But Amy flipped the script immediately. She didn't argue about the fairness of the debt, she attacked the existence of it. The theory is that Amy laid out the forensic accountant's findings directly on the coffee table. She pointed to the dates. She showed the withdrawals from the pumpkin patch revenue. She showed the deposits into Caryn's private management account. And then she showed the loans coming back into the farm's ledger days later. "You didn't loan the farm money, Caryn," Amy allegedly said. "You laundered the farm's own revenue to create a fake debt." The silence that followed was deafening. Matt Roloff, who prides himself on being a business genius, was reportedly stunned. He looked at the papers. He saw the circular flow of cash. For years, he had believed Caryn was saving the business with her own savings. He had signed promissory notes based on that belief. But looking at the evidence, the realization hit him like a freight train. He had been played. The money that saved the farm in January was the same money the farm had earned in October, just routed through Caryn's name to attach a lien to the property. Caryn reportedly tried to pivot. She tried to claim that the diverted funds were her legitimate bonuses, and that she chose to loan them back. But Amy was ready for that defense. She played her ace card, the nuclear option. In the world of business law, what Caryn allegedly did is a form of conversion and fraud. Filing a mechanic's lien based on fraudulent financial data is a crime. It is a felony to file false instruments with the county clerk. Furthermore, structuring transactions to hide the source of funds is a massive red flag for the IRS. Amy didn't just threaten to sue, she threatened to hand the entire binder over to the federal authorities. "You have two choices," Amy reportedly told them. "You can keep this lien on the property and I will walk out of here and mail this to the district attorney and the IRS Criminal Investigation Division. Or You can sign this release of lien document right now, admit that the debt is satisfied, and walk away. The power dynamic shifted instantly. Caryn Chandler is a smart woman. She knows the difference between a civil dispute and a criminal indictment. If the IRS started digging into those management accounts, they wouldn't just look at the farm. They would look at everything. Her personal taxes, her assets, everything would be under the microscope. The risk was too high. The $500,000 she thought she had secured was suddenly radioactive. She looked at Matt, perhaps expecting him to defend her, to find a loophole. But Matt was staring at the floor, humiliated. He realized that if this went to court, he would look like the biggest fool in Oregon. He had let his girlfriend siphon his own money and lend it back to him at interest. At that moment, the blockade crumbled. Caryn, realizing she had been checkmated, reportedly reached for the pen. There was no negotiation. There was no buyout. To avoid prison time and a public scandal that would destroy her reputation, she had to forfeit the claim. She signed the release of lien. The cloud on the title was lifted instantly. The $500,000 debt that had paralyzed the negotiation with the kids evaporated into thin air because it was never real to begin with. The aftermath of this meeting is what we are seeing play out now in the tabloids. The farm is legally free. Matt can now sell the land without needing to pay off a phantom creditor. But the damage to his ego is permanent. The theory explains why Matt has looked so tired and defeated in recent months. He isn't just fighting with his kids, he is sleeping next to the person who almost stole his legacy from under his nose. He can't kick her out because she knows too much, but the trust is gone. He is trapped in a prison of his own making. Amy Roloff walked out of that house with the signed release in her hand, the quiet victor. She didn't do it to get the land back for herself. She did it to ensure that when the time comes, the kids aren't inheriting a mountain of fake debt. She cleaned up Matt's mess one last time. This victory proves that while Matt might own the dirt, Amy still owns the truth. The sale of the farm might still be complicated, and the relationships might be shattered, but the financial parasite that was draining the equity has been removed. The phantom loan is dead. But this raises the biggest question of all. If Caryn was willing to go this far to secure a payout, what else has she done? What other contracts has Matt signed without reading the fine print? And why is Matt still with her? Is it love? Or is it fear? Is she holding something else over his head? Something even the forensic accountant couldn't find? The lien might be gone, but the danger to the Roloff legacy is far from over. As long as Caryn is in the picture, the farm is a target. Matt Roloff might have dodged a bullet, but he is still standing in the firing line. This is the most dangerous financial game ever played on reality TV, and you are watching it unfold in real time. The phantom loan was just the tip of the iceberg. We are going to keep digging, keep watching the public records, and keep exposing the truth that the show tries to hide. This brings us to you. We need to know where you stand. After hearing the evidence, do you think Matt is a victim of a master manipulator? Or was he in on it until he got caught? Did Caryn really try to steal $500,000 from the family? This is the story TLC is terrified to tell. If you believe Amy saved the farm, I want you to comment Team Justice down below right now. Let them know we see the truth. And if you think Matt needs to wake up and end this toxic partnership before he loses everything, hit that like button. Do not forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. We are currently tracking a new rumor about the Arizona property that suggests another financial trap is being set as we speak. You do not want to miss the next update. I'm your host, and this has been an LPBW update. We will see you in the comments.